Welcome to your favorite podcast, Scream. Today we are going to talk about paranormal stories and we have visit from Jonathan and Anthony.
And thanks for the invitation to this podcast.
And nice to share with you.
Great and well. Anthony, tell us what story do you know of the involves paranormal events?
My story happened when I was about 8 years old. My parents owned a bakery and sometimes I could stay there. In the bakery there was a regular telephone. One night the phone rang and I answered it. I recognized the voice of my cousin who asked me to come to her house. She didn't tell me why, just to go. I told her I was going to ask my mother and hung up on her. My mother couldn't let me go because it was too late, so I called my cousin back and she told me it wasn't her, that she had never called me. That's my story.
And what do you think about gods? Do you believe in them?
Ghosts.
Or any spirits? They say there are spirits that can you imagine the voice of a family member, but they are really playing a joke on you. Do you believe in that?
I really do, especially because of what happened to me with the call.
And other than that, nothing else has happened to you, right? Or was it just the phone call?
Yes, but I also know that a little paranormal story about a friend of mine that I met in a youth group. He could sometimes go off to play music by himself in the convent. One time he happened to videotape himself, and in the video you see a girl's face behind him. Uh, it's as if he had been running and just poked his head out. He says he didn't hear or see anyone else there.
And he didn't tell that to the nuns or the convent parents. He didn't show them the video.
No, he just discussed it with us. We didn't talk to the people there very much. Also, there's a story from the convent that may have to do with that girl. One time they say that a girl from the catechism or a retreat did there. I don't remember the story very well, but it was something like that.
Well, I am going to tell you a story that happened to me when I was almost 13 years old. My grandfather had been run over by a car, and one day before his funeral, me and my cousins went to the feed the animals he had in his farm. There were chickens, pigs, and other things. When we were there, we saw a silhouette that looked a lot like my grandfather. He had the same clothes he had been run over in it was very strange, and I will never forget it.
Oh, your grandfather was run over. I thought he had died of something else.
No, he was run over and I saw him. He looked just like him with the same clothes he was wearing.
How terrible. What a shame, really. I wish him a good rest.
Thank you. Then we calmed down a bit and tried not to think about it. Maybe we imagined things of fear, but maybe they were not real.
But even if you imagine it, you were right there.
We were about the same age. I was the youngest, only 10 years old. They were already 12 or 13 around there.
Whoa.
So we ran off into a mountain.
Oh, and maybe you have another story?
I know another story that my mother told me. It was about my grandfather. When he was little, they had given him money for something important. I think it was for my grandma's grave or something. But he spent the money on a bicycle. And when one day he went out with it to leave an errand or something like that, my mother says that behind him appeared a rider or something like that who wanted to kill him. My grandfather got very scared, of course, so he asked God to help him, to protect him, and then when the rider was about to give him a whip, he hit the tire of the bike. And my grandfather crashed and got hurt. I think he got a little bit stuck in the handlebars, and they even operated on him because of that.
So the rider went to take revenge for the money he has spent.
For the held money, maybe.
They are vindictive.
That's right. And don't you have any stories about your grandfathers or relatives?
My grandfather was a great storyteller, but he wasn't my blood grandpa. He was the one who lived with my abuelita. He had many stories. Once he told me that when he was a child, he lived in Cayambe, a town full of drive-ins and no paved roads. On at night, he left his house to go to a music class. I don't know what instrument he played, but he was very good. After the lesson, we walked home, and on the way, he heard wonderful music like an orchestra coming out on every creek.
And what did he do?
Well, he approached the creek, attracted by the music. The music enveloping him, hypnotized him, you could say. And when he got to the creek, he saw something incredible. Have you heard about the Wakaisike?
No, what is that?
A demon?
No, exactly. It's a shape-shifting goblin. Well, my grandfather saw him there playing a ukulele, and not only that, there were also other spirits dancing and singing. My grandfather was so enraged that he didn't notice the time passing by. Luckily, his mom called him from home, worried about his delay, and so he is able to rest and come back to rally.
Well, what an amazing story.
Yes, and what else did your grandfather tell you?
Well, he also told me that he worked off a farm on a hill in Cayambe. One day, he went with the foreman to take care of the cows and other animals. And I died a rainbow foreman very close to where they were. And the foreman saw that at the end of the rainbow has a pot of gold.
Really? Like in the stories?
Yes, just like that. The foreman did think twice en route to look for the pot of gold. He found in a tug in with him. thinking he would heal rich, but my grandfather told me that after 3 months the foreman died. Suddenly, no one knew why, because he was a healthy and strong man. But my grandfather suspected that the pot of gold was cursed.
First, what do you say that?
Maybe because the pot of gold didn't belong to the foreman, but to some goblin. And you know how goblins are. They don't live to have their stuff stolen. Maybe they put a curse on the foreman and that's why he did.
That's scary.
Yes, my grandfather had many stories like that about Cayambe. He used to tell me that it was a place full of legends and mysteries. But he also told me that we had to respect nature and his inhabitants because they also respect us if we don't hurt them.
And you think that was true?
I don't know, but my grandfather was not a liar. Besides, the stories from the countryside are usually very real.
It's true. I've heard some too. Now you don't see them so much, but they used to be more common.
In the city, you hardly ever heard these things, do you?
No, and the series is different. Also, maybe there are some sections like in the old buildings that have their own stories.
Um, I don't know how to explain it to you, but I've been thinking a little bit about this ghost thing. I think most people might agree that there is something paranormal, especially since there is evidence of phenomena like witchy or exorcism. So there might be something beyond what we see.
Well, I think that depends on each person's experience. There are people who don't believe in it because nothing has happened to them, or because they see it as something irrational.
I think it also depends on where to live. Maybe in the countryside, there are more ghost stories than in the city. Because of the environment or the culture, I don't know. It's a hypothesis.
Well, yes, it could be. Well, I think we have given a lot of thought to this very interesting subject.
Yes, we have. Well, thank you very much for being here on the podcast and sharing your opinions on paranormal stories.
Thanks.
Thanks.